Okay, so we saw in there a few, well, we really just scratched the surface, to be honest, about the perceived environment, but we saw a few things that I think you might start to take notice of now as you move around your community or through your streets or around different suburbs. In particular, try and pay attention to the difference between those suburbs that you might consider are healthy and active, and those suburbs where we might see higher incidence of things like inactivity, sedentary behaviour, obesity, diabetes, etc. And just have a look at the environment in which these places are, and have a look at things like accessibility, walkability, amenity, the capacity for them to make people feel good or feel well, green space versus concrete space, and start to ask yourself some questions about, well, how much of my physical activity is influenced by where I live, and what things I have access to and how I get access to those spaces. So please start to consider those elements and pay attention to those things now when you walk or move through different environments. Take notice of those things, and I think you'll start to see a little bit more clearly why things are not equal, and the choices that people make are not independent free will choices, but they're choices that are based upon a whole bunch of factors, some beyond the immediate control of the individual. So when I walk out my front to choose whether I get on a bike or go by car or walk to the shops, those choices are not simple choices to make. They're choices that are influenced by a range of factors, including the way I feel about my community or my environment. Just to give you an example of a case study that I was involved with in my research, we looked at the community of Hastings and trying to get kids to walk to and from school. When we did our audit, we noticed that it wasn't very walkable for kids. There was footpaths that didn't match up. There were really busy roads that parents were incredibly concerned about. They had an 80 kilometre an hour speed zone right past one of the schools. It kind of cut the town in half. So from the residential space to the schools, kids had to negotiate a very busy road, a very heavily used road. And there were no crossings or provisions in there for kids to make easy access across that space. So we looked to change the built environment by spending, I think the council spent over $170,000 on infrastructure, built footpaths, connected footpaths up, put in set of lights, put in pedestrian crossings, and did those things to make this place more walkable. On top of that, the kids were involved in designing meeting places where we put schoolwork, artwork in the ground. So they had mosaic tiles done representing the work they'd done in their class. And they put the footprints on the paths, they stenciled their footprints on paths to give themselves some ownership of that space, and were involved in sort of creating that place to make it feel a little bit more like theirs. So we try to counteract some of the negative perceptions in that environment, particularly the negative graffiti that's around the place, by having the kids get out there and do some of their own activities in that space, particularly through artwork. So this offers an interesting alternative to simply just putting in infrastructure, but putting in infrastructure and then making it feel nice or feel like you have some defensible space, so you have some control over that. So that project happened a couple of years ago, and certainly the school kids embraced the concept and embraced the idea of gaining control back over their own space so that they could then walk to and from school, which is something 80+% of the kids all wanted to do. So have a think about that as well. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoyed that session. Don't forget to log into Blackboard. Your assignments should be well on the way by now, so make sure you're keeping up to date with that. We'd like your web pages starting to be finalized in terms of the way they look and your problems stated clearly, and you should now be starting to work further on in that. So please make sure you press on with that. Do not leave that to the last minute. Take care, and I'll see you later.